Hello, everyone. Welcome to the GLORIO Chat, the best anime podcast on the internet. Well, Zig, we have you on. I don't want to dance around this. I think we need to address our disagreement.
All right, look, I'm very sorry I called you a paedophile in rat form. I promise I won't do it again.
Oh, man.
This is the first podcast we've done since Drake was publicly executed by orbital laser at the Super Bowl. So
I will not apologize for suing your record label, but anyway, I think it's time we resolve this. But for anybody who hasn't been following the past couple of episodes, of course, Zig, Aqua, and sometimes G have started Blue Mondays, the Eureka 7 watch-along podcast, available every other Monday, alternating with this podcast. But yes, and in one of those episodes, you were talking about the ending song of Eureka 7, which is titled Secret Base.
Yes.
And you mentioned that you were unhappy when the song Secret Base, where the title Secret Base was also used for the ending song of another anime, Anohana, which I know you all despise. So
there were so many words. Yeah, there were so many words. Despise might be a little strong.
How can I despise something I don't remember?
Last episode of this podcast, I made the statement that I think Secret Base from Anohana is better than Secret Base from Eureka 7.
You really caught me off guard with that one last time. That was a real jump scare.
And I feel like I need to address this. To
admit you're wrong.
Look. We're all reasonable adults here.
Speak for yourself.
I'm willing to concede that I cannot definitively state that Secret Base from Anohana is better than Secret Base from Eureka 7, but I do want to at least state a few facts in support of my case.
Okay.
Because
all right.
Because this is
let him cook.
Yes, so
the man came with papers.
Yes, so it's the Secret Base that is the ED of Anohana is more than just your typical just random pop song, and I think it is. I actually, joking aside, do think it is actually a good ED, and it has history to it. So here is my fact list.
Okay.
So the full title of the song is Secret Base Kimi ga Kuretamono 10 years after version. It is called that because it is a cover of a song that released 10 years previous in 2001 by a band called Zone that was fairly popular, got covered other times prior to that, including by some other anime I've never heard of. I didn't even realize in 2008 it was also the ED for that, and also covered by other bands like Scandal and other band idol type groups.
So a well-known track is what you're saying.
Yes. So technically, it does predate the Eureka 7 ED because it was originally from 2001.
I had a feeling this would come up because I am also aware of the Anohana ED's origins. So.
Yes. So it technically predates it. That Secret Base existed before the Eureka 7.
Yes,
Secret
I
Base.
mean, I am sure there are other songs also called Secret Base as well.
Yes. So, and I actually do think it is a pretty good song. I will admit the Eureka 7 version is a more, let's say, musically complex or mature song. But as far as if you want a big, gooey, emotional pop ballad, I think it's actually pretty good. But
that sounds reasonable.
And I it is more than your typical. They actually put some thought into it because it is a song about being nostalgic for your friend when you're a kid, and they picked a song that was like almost exactly 10 years from when the anime aired. And of course, if you know the plot of Anohana, the plot is a group of friends who, from when they were like little kids reuniting 10 years later, right? So there was some actual thought put into the selection of the song. So
in conclusion,
no, let me get my stuff
and sophisticated, we're dumb and smelly.
Let me get my stuff in, okay? I think that's a pretty comprehensive argument, Gel, and you conceded something, so I would like to concede something. I will concede that you are a bitch ass motherfucker who is always wrong.
Oh, that's how weird! Suddenly Zig's microphone's not working again. I don't know. Can you guys hear him talking right now? I can't. But
okay, now I'm not on mute.
Okay. What? All right. Well, either way, we're back. The joke is
okay.
The joke is over. We can clear the beef. I can cut out some of that, but also it's kind of comedy gold. Anyway,
I mean, I don't know. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
we can agree to disagree.
We have plenty of other things to talk about, believe it or not. So, in case we need to introduce everyone, I'm Jel. We're joined by Iro.
I'm still here. I'm not dead yet. I've avoided the crossfire.
Still with us. You're just standing back and watching. You don't want any part of this. But we're also joined by G.
Help! I'm stuck in the side quest dimension and I can't get out.
Ah, yes.
I've played like 26 mini games in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I've heard that about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Yeah,
yes,
well,
thank you, Iro.
We somehow find a way to mention the Yakuza video game series in every episode of this podcast, and now I guess we have a legitimate reason, right? Since there is a new one that you're actively playing.
As Iro alluded to, actually, I was kind of referencing the 2 games I have been playing recently. The first was Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is finally out on PC.
Oh, yes.
But also, Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. And, man, those are 2 video games that really posit... Do you want to play a minigame right now? Do you want to play a lot of this minigame right now?
Oh, boy. Yeah.
So... all the way through the marketing of that game, I've not paid super close attention to the marketing because I have preferred to maintain my personal headcanon that Majima got hit on the head and then woke up and thought he was a pirate. Is that actually what happens?
I don't know yet. That's the central mystery of Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, is just how did Majima lose his memory?
But he actually has lost his memory and become a pirate?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Canonically, a year after the events of Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Majima's ship sank and he washed up on the shores of Hawaii with no memory of his past self. Saw a pirate and instantly imprinted upon it, and that became his new personality.
So... I am not a citizen of the fine country, the United States of America. Do pirates just walk around in Hawaii? Do you just walk down the street and see a pirate? Because you say he washed ashore and then saw a pirate.
Look,
it could be like a tourist thing, like a guy in a costume, right?
Look, I would say this was more likely in maybe 2008 when the Pirates of the Caribbean movies were a lot hotter. I'd say there's a lot less likely nowadays. No, the game, in all seriousness, makes no attempt to justify it. It's just I don't know, they're just roving bands of guys who dress up as pirates and sail in galleons and, fight with flintlock pistols and cutlasses, and really no explanation, none given whatsoever.
Sure,
just needed. Yeah, it is what it. Yeah, I mean, it does seem like one of the best ideas for an asset flip I've ever heard of. But
it is truly. It is. This game came out I think 13 months after Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. In the context of modern game development, that's kind of insane.
Yeah.
I mean, because they reuse the entire map, right?
And so that is the thing. As much as everybody jokes, haha, Majima's a pirate, how silly. If you've been playing these games for a long time, I'm not going to pretend like I would have predicted that the follow-up to Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth would have been a Pirate Majima spin-off. But you can put together the pieces of like how they make these games.
They had to reuse the Honolulu map somehow.
Yes, will definitely take place in Hawaii. Will definitely have some kind of vaguely tropical oceanic theme.
Right, but I even by Yakuza standards, I still feel you became a 17th century pirate is kind of a major leap, honestly.
Well, I mean,
Ichiban had his like Dragon Quest delusions, right? Like, I mean,
to be fair, that was brain damage. Here in
Majima's been through some things.
Yes. Here in Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, they are positing that canonically, Majima discovered a cursed violin that could summon revenant sharks.
Sure. No, I mean, that stuff sounds perfectly in keeping with Yakuza tradition. It's just the idea that there are now just roving bands of pirates who like run around Hawaii with cutlasses and flintlock pistols all the time.
I suppose, to be fair, there are some hints that this entire thing is being funded by the Queen of Madlantis.
Is that a nightclub?
No, Madlantis, you see, is the secret island off the coast of Hawaii.
Yes.
That is a den of scum and villainy, where all it's the pirates' home base. You know, as you know. Yes, it's it's a secret coliseum / casino / pirate cove. And,
it's a place full of mini games, is what you're saying.
And Majima and his crew have to go to Madlantis because Madlantis may hold the secrets to how he lost his memory.
Yeah, that's...
It's going to turn out he just drank too much, right? That's what it's going to be.
That is...
Are we sure this is not all just like a dying dream or something?
The game does have an explicit Greek chorus framework
in
which... occasionally mid-game, mid-plot, the camera will hard cut to Majima in a dark room with a spotlight.
Oh, Xenogears.
Yes, quite literally Xenogears, where he will narrate, like, from an outsider perspective, the narrative events that are happening to him. And then it will go back to the in-game, in-universe, quote-unquote, real plot. This is a particularly manic game, even by Yakuza standards.
Yeah, I'm going to change my prediction.
I still don't know what to make of it.
Is the end like they zoom out and like they zoom out of Majima's eyeball and he's just in a padded cell, while the men in white coats observe him, something like that? Because honestly, it sounds like it could be heading that way.
He's the only one who remembers.
Yes.
Yeah, I would not take anything off the table. I mean, the whole thing is both. No one could have predicted this, but also I don't think anybody should be surprised.
I was going to say this is in some sense this is the most predictable thing in the entire universe.
Yeah, well, that sounds pretty fun though.
Have you got to? Is there any sailing on big old sailing ships?
Oh yeah. There's like a full on Black Flag style like naval combat elements of the game. I would say in all seriousness, as much as people joked this is the real
Skull and Bones.
Yes, this is the real Skull and Bones. I would say this is kind of closer to like Black Flag Arcade Edition. Like it's very arcadey. It's there's not that much mechanical depth to the naval combat.
Black Flag was already pretty arcadey. So.
Could you unlock a railgun for your ship in Black Flag?
No, but that might have been a little historically incongruent.
Well,
don't.
All right. I gotta cut off. We can't get into comparing to a game from like 15 years ago here. But yes, we need to keep moving. But that does again sound both appropriate and also fun. But yeah. All right. Well. We also have Zig with us, as I've already stated.
Yeah, I think I've already caused enough trouble, quite frankly.
We I think we've had our introduction. So let's get into our list of anime
All this anime.
I mean, we keep saying we have nothing we're watching, but there are a couple shows sticking around. I think it's just that we're not maybe happy about it. but there are shows that we're still watching. That we have a new Sentai show. We have some backlog, and I have been continuing to watch Land of the Lustrous, which if we have time, I can talk more about that as well. So
it's going better than your first listener recommendation, then.
Yeah. So let's dive into it. Let's talk about Dragon Ball Daima.
Yes.
I've seen some things, and I want you guys to explain what happened.
Well, one could say that maybe the real, like, just the core thesis statement of Daima is that Dragon Ball Daima is just was precision machined in a lab to tap into the cultural id of like 90s America.
I've not seen Dragon Ball Daima, but I want to posit an alternate hypothesis for Dragon Ball Daima's mission statement, which is, what if we ignored Dragon Ball Super?
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going to go. I thought the theme we were going to go for is Dragon Ball Super did not exist.
I mean, it's more than just ignoring Dragon Ball Super. It is the like wholehearted embrace of like everything we four specific people here remember about Dragon Ball.
Would you say perhaps that they stepped into the Grand Tour?
They sure did.
What if a
Step
double
into the Grand Tour, Dragon Ball GT.
I remember what you were going to say.
Yeah. What happens if a double Ascended Saiyan ascends further? If we add one more to the number,
we'll get there. We'll get there. Let's talk about episode 18, which continues the battle against Goma, the Demon King. Just a quick recap. He got a power up. He's big now. It's Dragon Ball. Everybody's fighting him. He has like limitless stamina and strength, and everybody's combined attacks are doing nothing to him. And Goku, Goku's kid Goku's he's down and out, he's beaten, he's tired, he doesn't know if he's got much fight left in him. The old Namekian dude, as old Namekians are wont to do, holds his palm up to Goku. And Goku taps into... I was joking. We were watching this episode, and I was joking because, like, Goku starts charging up his ki, and then, like, it zooms into his eye, and then it zooms into, like, a DNA helix strand.
It does that. And I said, shot from the Dragon Ball Z opening.
And I go, he's tapping into his latent Saiyan DNA.
Primal form.
No, that's stupid. His DNA digivolving.
And then, no shit, he straight up does, in fact, unlock SSJ4. That's right, the red monkey form from GT is canonized once again in Dragon Ball.
It's back.
Hey,
I say God, Ultra Instinct, get out of here.
Yeah. Just as a reminder, at the very beginning of Dragon Ball Daima, I did mention, hey, I sure loved Super Saiyan 4 better than any of the super power-ups. And,
okay, but that's like asking if you want to be shot in the hand or, like, the nuts.
Yeah, I gotta be honest, I am, like, not the biggest fan of SSJ4, but...
I'm not either. I'm just saying it's better than just making the hair blue or whatever, right?
But as a survivor...
It looks incredibly stupid, which is in keeping with the grand tradition of Dragon Ball power-ups.
Yes. As a survivor of the GT wars,
indeed.
Yes, there's a part of my childhood nostalgia that sees SSJ4 and go, that's like my old Dragon Ball, my old parentheses bad Dragon Ball.
I remember it, so it's good.
Yes, exactly. And it is fun, right? Because I mean, as always, it is fun to watch Goku beat some ass. It's a fascinating episode in a vacuum because, like, they also like summon the demon world dragon, and I think me and Iro joke we're like, it's gonna be a red dragon. Like, we just saw SSJ4 Goku, now it's gonna be a red dragon. It's gonna be red Shenron. And it's like, no. It's Red Porunga. Stupid ass show.
Wow.
Good.
Like, Like Toriyama, I mean, God rest his soul, rest in peace.
Was this his
the
like
hackiest fucking hack to ever do it, man? Holy shit!
Is this like a fitting parting shot from him?
It kind of is.
Yeah.
It's like these blatant recolors, just trudging up old nostalgia. Like,
I mean,
there's no reason we should give Dragon Ball this pass, but we do because it's Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
I assume that it was Red Purunga, not Red Shenron, because they're holding out for Black Shenron.
Are we gonna go? Well, no. There's only like a couple episodes left, right?
There is one left as of this recording.
I mean, one episode is more than enough to do the entire plot of GT.
Naturally. Yes. Baby, any super baby, any moment now.
Yep. No time for Super Baby 2.
But the nostalgia continues because they summon Red Purunga or the Doronjo gang villains summon Purunga, and it's like, oh no, what are they gonna wish for? And GLORIO, who's their newest party member, who was secretly a double agent for the Doronjo gang. He's the only one in the Doronjo gang that can speak Namekian, and so the tension is, is he gonna obey his masters or his newfound friends? Spoilers: he helps his friends. It's fucking Dragon Ball. What do you expect? And so he wishes for all of them to be returned to adulthood. So we got adult Goku back, adult Vegeta, adult Piccolo's here to help. He hasn't done anything yet.
Adults are really high. Save the day, everybody.
I mean, like, not doing anything is about par for the course for Piccolo, so it's fine.
He stands there and, his cape billows in the wind.
Business as usual.
Yes. But anyway, so now that we got, adult Goku and Vegeta, look, like a lot of Daima, like, it's no point recapping because just they fight, right? I don't know. I guess for a certain type of fan, it's the first time we see adult Vegeta going SSJ4. So I think for a fan, that's probably like a big deal because he never did that, right?
Yeah.
Like, so, there we go.
Okay, so here's the big question for the final episode: Vegeta or Gogeta?
That does seem like where it's going, but
they don't have the earrings, right? So it's gotta be
there. They do have the earrings.
Oh, then it's definitely Vegito, right?
Yeah.
If they wouldn't show the earrings unless they were going to do Vegito, like, right?
I mean, it's not like they've made a point of the earrings. It's just that Supreme Kai is there.
I mean, even if he were not there, they could fudge it.
I mean, does Supreme Kai have any other purpose other than to give them the earrings?
No. He's occasionally pretty funny.
But yeah, so the nostalgia wave doesn't stop there because what's more nostalgic than Vegeta getting a new form and then immediately eating shit against the villain?
Yep.
Vegeta goes SSJ4 and Goba just kind of beats the shit out of it. It's
truly the old ways are back.
Yep.
Yes. There's a pretty good gag where, which feels very Toriyama. And that's the thing. I think that's a thing about Daima that continues to, like, kind of keep it in good standing despite how, like, blatantly naked its nostalgia pandering is that it is pandering, but it feels like it is pandering coming from, like, the heart and mind of Toriyama. Like, the sensibilities are there. And, Goku is like watching Vegeta get the fucking piss beat out of him, and he's like, "I need Vegeta to tap out. Like he needs to put me in the fight." And Vegeta is like, "No, Kakarot, my Saiyan pride." Typical Vegeta shit. And then, Bulma basically just gets out there and shouts at Vegeta. She's like, "Vegeta, if you don't stop fighting right now, I'll never take a bath with you ever again." And then Vegeta immediately depowers from SSJ4 and instantly, like, returns back to the fold. It's pretty good.
Yes.
Just classic domesticated Vegeta.
The ultimate wife guy.
The ultimate wife guy.
Very good.
Vegeta, the OG wife guy.
Yeah. All right. Well, go ahead. You can finish, G.
There's one last thing we have to talk about, because it is the thing that happens at the end of episode 19, which is so Goku gets back in the fray, and it's not just what Goku does here; it is specifically how it is framed. Goku shows up, stances up, adult Goku in the gi, and he powers up. He goes Super Saiyan. The double shading is on.
Oh, yeah.
He says to Goma, "This is Super Saiyan." Powers up again. The lightning streaks. And this is to go beyond Super Saiyan.
Yep.
You could call this Super Saiyan 2.
Did we actually ever see Super Saiyan 2 Goku in the original Dragon Ball? I don't think
he
we
goes
did.
Super Saiyan 2 to fight Majin Vegeta, who also goes Super Saiyan 2.
Oh, okay, sorry.
And then Goku starts charging again. And he says, "And this is to go further beyond."
God damn it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. He does it, man. He does it. He does the entire SSJ3, the Super Saiyan 3 sequence
He said
from
the
Dragon
thing.
Ball Z. He says the thing. He does the thing. Goma literally responds by saying, "Ho hum, more pointless transformations." Like,
yep.
And a tear ran down your eye.
Kind of, right? Yeah. Because it's like, here's the thing. In all seriousness, right? Like, you can like there's a lot of things you can throw at Dragon Ball. There's a lot you can fling at Dragon Ball for better or worse, right? Like, it is Power Ups the show. It's very simply written. It's maybe one of the most predictable shonen ever made. But it gets to be that because it did it first, right? Because Dragon Ball did this. Dragon Ball was him.
Yeah. And in a way, it almost feels like I have been wondering, are they going to do something as like an actual direct tribute to Akira Toriyama in the last episode or something? I don't know, but something.
Raleigh shows up in the last episode.
Have his like a gas mask, like a self-insert guy from the margins show up.
Show him sitting on the side, smoking cigarettes and reading.
Something about doing what you just said, G, almost feels like a victory lap or something, right?
Yeah.
Like it's
how is 90-year-old Masako Nozawa handling those screaming transformations?
Look, I gotta admit, right? I am kind of a Nozawa hater, right? No disrespect to her, but it's just not my adult Goku. Like I think Daima was fine because it was kid Goku, and so like I can deal.
You don't agree with the overall creative decision to continue Goku having the child voice, right? Like that.
So I can't speak to it. Maybe Iro can as a
she can't like really scream it anymore, right? But it's fine.
Yeah. It's just the sound that's important.
Do it.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, there's also. I hate to make this serious, but like, there's the sobering kind of realization that this is going to be the last Dragon Ball project that has like a lot of the,
Oh yeah.
Particularly, obviously Akira Toriyama being the big one, but we don't know how. We've already lost some of the original creative talent, right? Like it's probably the last one that's going to have the primary input from the main creative talent, right? So in a way, like. I was kind of half joking when I was like a tear runs down your eye as that happens, because there is like there is something melancholy, a little melancholy about Daima. Not tonally. The show itself is very plucky, but in the meta perspective,
it's the end of an age, right? It's the end.
It really is.
It's the end of Dragon Ball productions made, not necessarily with Toriyama's direct involvement, but with his knowledge, right?
Yeah, for sure. And so it's like, yes, him just doing the SSJ3 sequence is very like, you kids remember that? And it's like, I do remember that. And
I sure do.
That holds some meaning to me, right?
Yeah. And that's a thing that's so big in like most people's cultural memory. Like everybody knows what a Super Saiyan is, right? Like it's so big that like you can kind of get away with that, right?
In the modern day, like there is the like shonen power system like arms race, right? Every new shonen has to invent an increasingly like spectacular power system. You know, like we went from like bankais to what was it, to domain expansions. You know, like you got stands over here, right? All this stuff, right? And like in some ways, Dragon Ball is like so quaint and simple, but it is the most iconic, visually readable shonen power-up in all of fiction, right? Yep. A man screams his lungs out and his hair changes color. You know? Yep. The ocean rolls, the waves rock, the earth breaks asunder.
The artist is too lazy to fill in areas of the canvas.
Exactly, you know, like it is the language of a generation. It is a visual language that transcends all cultural barriers.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see how they wrap things up, but that sounds like I don't know what they're gonna do to. I guess we'll see if we get the fusion or something in the end or whatever. But
I mean, I feel like hilarious joke anticlimax ending is probably the safest bet, right?
Yeah,
I think there will be some.
They've already set that up because the way to defeat Goma is not to blast him hard. It's if we hit him on the back of the head 3 times, his power up will pop out and he'll go back to being a loser. So let me power up to distract him.
And you know it's gonna be funny because this entire operation hinges on Piccolo not fumbling.
Oh, yeah. Is he the one who's got to bonk him on the head?
Yes.
Okay.
Goku and Vegeta have agreed
seen as Piccolo has been beneath notice this whole time.
Yes. The idea is that because Piccolo has done fucking nothing, Goma will not pay attention to Piccolo while Goku and Vegeta distract him. And you just know somehow, even though all Piccolo has to do is follow the damn train, he's still going to fuck it up somehow because that's funnier.
Yep. All right. Well, we'll discuss the exciting conclusion next time. I think we got.
Who knows? Maybe he'll punch like Goma twice, and then like get like knocked away, and then Piccolo will remind everybody he can stretch his limbs.
Right. And it's going to be the last one that's going to be really hard to get. Right.
Multiform technique.
Yeah.
At some point, like he's super good hearing is going to come into effect, and he's going to say, didn't you know that Namekians have super good hearing? And you know,
remember in Lord Slug where they have Gohan whistle and Piccolo rips his ears off?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, normally I would say
Piccolo will get knocked away and then reveal the last second he coughed up an egg, and in it is a little demon guy who will land the third and final punch.
All right. Well,
Tambourine will come back.
Okay, now we really need to move on. Tambourine.
This is what happens when you get a bunch of old dudes to talk about Dragon Ball, a franchise that has been around for like half a century.
Yeah, I know. I also just recently resumed watching Z with my nephew too, so it's all in my brain right now.
You gotta, like Jel, you gotta let us know whenever you get your nephew to Goku's SSJ4 transformation, because I gotta know if that shit still hits.
Are you guys watching Kai, or are you watching the pure unfiltered stuff?
We're watching Kai.
Hard to blame you.
Yeah, I know there's some trade off, but we're only at Ginyu Force right now, so we've got a long time before we get to.
It's a real hard ask to ask like a contemporary tween to sit through 290 episodes.
Hell, I mean, asking me to sit through it is going to be a lot.
It's different. You're no longer, coming home from school and turning on the TV. Right.
I got a lot of other things I could be doing. Yeah. But I'm going to cherry pick some things like Goku and Piccolo getting their driver's license. Those things,
of course.
Excellent.
So, all right,
Post boy.
we do need to move on. So let's talk about Beastars season 3.
So something I actually said about Beastars season 3. I was watching it and I went, "Oh, he's just astrally projecting." Think about how insane that sentence is.
I think I think a problem we've talked. I don't want to rehash other problems we've had with season 3 because we've done that many times. So, and for the sake of time, I'm not going through it. One thing that has occurred to me though in these episodes, particularly with Melon, I feel like the whole like mixed species thing is kind of sprung out of nowhere. Like, how has this not come up before?
It just feels like the satirical element of the show is really flimsy, to be honest.
And I also just kind of hate Melon. I know you're supposed to hate him, but like he's got like a Kenjiro Suda tier voice.
No, like Melon's like Melon was not one, like even like. Oh, go ahead.
He's so wacky and unpredictable and edgy.
There's going to be like some great YouTube video or paper about like the 2010s of fiction just being dominated by the Joker archetype of villain. But it's Melon was contentious even in the Monk. I will say this. Like Melon is kind of, for better or worse, Eero, maybe you can like, back me up on this. I feel like Melon kind of, for better or worse, becomes the like cipher, the embodiment of late Beastars.
Yeah. It's as the plot becomes very much Lugosi versus Melon on an ideological level. It's like it sort of just takes over everything.
Yeah. And I think my problem is like whatever conflict Lugosi is having dealing with it, because it's not like he knew he was a mixed person, right? Like that wasn't a surprise to him, right? Like
Lugosi has always known this.
And suddenly this is now a conflict for him that's like a major theme of this series that we haven't built up to at all, if that's what it feels like to me.
This is definitely like a very indicative of like, I think a lot of manga, you kind of feel that like fly-by-wire like kind of writing where this is a thing that like if you had planned from the beginning should have been like seeded way earlier in the story, at least a little bit.
Yeah. Because this clearly was not planned in the beginning, right? So like
this is that weird thing where in theory, Lugosi's primary rivals / antagonists are each meant to sort of like embody like an internal conflict of like Lugosi's desire to have a relationship with Haru, right? Like Riz represents like the like potential like violent like logical conclusion of like what happens when carnivores and herbivores like spend too much time together, right?
And that felt like that was built up to from day one.
And I think it was well done. Like, I still kind of hold the opinion that Riz is actually, like, despite the fact that he's much simpler as a character, I think he's actually a much better villain than Melon. Whereas, like, Melon is sort of meant to represent the, like, okay, so you're definitely gonna kiss this rabbit. What next, right? Like, what next? And Melon and the entire conflict around Melon and Lugosi is, like, in theory, I get what Beastars is trying to do here with the like, okay, yeah, you want to have your interspecies relationship, but are you ready to handle the specific like existentially like galling like potentials of what that actually means in this specific like world? I could almost get behind, but I just think Melon is such a bad like cipher for that plot line because like the implication is like, you see, he's crazy and fucked up because he's both an herbivore and a carnivore. He doesn't belong to either, and that's made him all messed up. It's made him twisted. And I don't know, man. I
guess the point is Lugosi is also mixed, but he's not like that, so you don't have to be like that. Just that's I get the point. It feels like it was like it's been just out of left field, this whole like, and the fact that it's meant to be like the single most important thing happening right now is a little difficult for me to swallow. But
I think the show's presentation of the message is really muddled sometimes as well, like especially in this dream sequence with Lugosi's mother where she's like, oh, you know, animals should live together. Nobody should be afraid of being mixed. You should be proud of your mixed heritage. But also when it turned out that I was mixed and it started showing, I killed myself out of shame.
I mean, she never told him to be proud of it.
Yeah, to be explicit, Lugosi's mother is like an embodiment of like mixed heritage or mixed heritage self-loathing.
Perhaps, but like that is not the impression that I got just from watching.
Then that is a failure of the anime. Like this is like kind of what Iro and I have kind of been like hinting at this whole time of like Beastars is never like completely fucked up as an adaptation, but every time it cuts a small thing here, a small thing there, eventually you cut so many small things, it adds up into a pretty big absence in this story. Like, I mean, that's a great example because, like, Lino, Lugosi's mom, again, to be clear, the thing we like about Beastars is that often its characters and plot lines are not convenient analogs to real-world problems.
Right.
But, like, but much of, like, Lino kind of feels like a reading on, like, racial self-hatred. Like, you know, the conversation she has with Gosha, where she's like, hey, in public, can we stop, like, I don't want people to think we're related, right? Like telling your own family that, right? Like being that ashamed of, you know, your own heritage. There's an aside in the manga that the anime sadly cut out, which is like, they don't even mention Lugosi's father. And
I did raise some questions around that.
And we could just talk about it because they're not going to bring it up later because they cut out. It happened here. When Lugosi's mother discovered her scales, she immediately just found the first pure-blooded wolf and, like, you know, shacked up. Like, the implication being she was so ashamed of her mixed heritage that she sought out someone of pure blood to try to purify her own heritage. And, you know, like, this is a thing that has been spoken of in, like, POC circles, right? Like, this type of, like, racial, like society-induced racial self-loathing, right? Like, you know, this idea that, oh, I'm going to marry, you know, someone of, you know, a quote-unquote higher race than me, so that my children will, you know, will dilute the dirty blood I have, right? Like, this is a real thing that has happened, and, like, that's very much, like, meant to be a part of, like, Lino's character, and, like, you know, speak to, like, why Lugosi has kind of become the person he is today, why he is so invested in, like, trying to make a mixed species relationship work, because for better or worse, like, this is the history of his entire, like, family.
Sure, but and you know, when you lay it out like that, that makes a lot of sense, but then that sort of flips to another issue, which is I don't think that this show tonally is able to handle something of that weight, if that makes sense. You know, I think, you know, Beastars is not a comedy, but it's not exactly a super serious drama either, and I'm not getting the sort of narrative heaviness of an ability to carry the material.
And I think that might be some of the stuff lost in adaptation too, where I feel like you have more time.
I can't help but, like, feel strongly again. Like, I can't help but disagree strongly. I think then that is a disservice of this adaptation, because I absolutely think the manga, like, even as it starts to fall apart narratively, I think it does a surprisingly capable job of handling some, like, really fraught, contentious topics.
Yeah, and I think I think the over the course of going from season 1 to season 3, and again, I don't want to rehash all the stuff we've said about this, but, like, I do feel like we've lost what nuance or whatever we had back then when we were spending more time on focusing on things and not just, you know, cramming in as many vignettes as we can. There was more time to explore those things. I think I understand where Zig is coming from. I don't entirely agree. I didn't think it has a higher. I give it more capacity to handle more serious things, but also there is the contrast of these are there's some very ridiculous things happening.
Oh
in the
yes,
show.
for sure. Again,
so
Ghost Lugosi caressing Lewis's amputated foot. Like, to be clear, like I mean, this has always been like this has always kind of been the bizarre like hyper reality of a lot of Japanese fiction, right? Like, we just talked about the Yakuza games earlier in this podcast, right? That is a series that handles some very heavy topics, and then also has a dude hanging out with a chicken. Like it's I feel like this is often like a thing that happens specifically in Japanese media, right?
But
it's kind of wild tonal shifting,
right? Yeah. But I'm kind of with Gel here in that I think as the show has gone on, it's kind of the balance has been thrown out of whack to a certain extent, and I also feel that increasingly as we have gone through this third season, and even to a limited extent in the second season, I think as they begin to build the world out. Some of the foundations have started to look a little creaky. I mean, I think that, it's been kind of a joke that, I've made, you guys have made about how everybody seems to know that the black market is happening, even like, the kids on the corner know that there is a secret black market where people are being eaten. But it is beginning to damage my suspension of disbelief that just everybody knows this is happening and nobody, just wanders in someday and nobody even seems to care to keep it secret, and I get on some level the idea is this is such an open secret because secretly it's what everybody wants, but it's beginning to strain my disbelief quite a bit there, I think.
Yeah, well, it is kind of disappointing with the where it's like the world build as the world expands a bit. It's like I feel like it's not benefiting the story, and from what you guys are saying, maybe a lot of that is the adaptation and not being able to pad things out. But
I think this is like what we were saying, where our worries would be for season 3, like years ago, right?
Yes.
So
yep.
Like we said this as far back as season 2. Like season 2 landed the plane, but in a way that fundamentally damaged its ability to move on to season 3. Like season 2 generally ends solidly, but even there you can already feel that they are they're throwing chairs out the door just to cut weight,
and season 3 has felt a lot like that scene in The Wrong Trousers where Gromit is laying the track in front of the train as it goes. And I think occasionally that manic energy actually helps. I think it helped the end of season 2, for example, but it does sort of give you the feeling that one false move and they're going to go tumbling off the edge of the cliff or whatever.
And I think that's why, for better or worse, it's I don't think any of us can really hop into the mind of Paru Itagaki, but would you even want to? I mean, some of us have been reading her new manga where the dog, the subtext is gone. The dog just wants to fuck the girl,
there's it's very literal, yes, but anyway.
You get this because I even feel this in these 2 episodes where what was my favorite part of these 2 episodes? It's where Lewis reunites with the Lion Mafia, and there's that feeling of comfortable return to form, let's settle back into the old dynamic, the old storytelling style, and I guess there is this feeling that maybe Paru was at her most comfortable when it was in the school, when it was occasionally a sleazy underworld story. But the plot and scale and scope was still relatively small, and
I think that's when the satire was most on point, certainly.
And it does feel like this is classic shonen inflation thing of oh well, now that I need to expand the world, I need to add more characters, I need to add more factions and moving parts, and I think it's legitimately it's probably tough for even a good writer to balance that well and still kind of maintain the feel and tone that got people in the door in the first place.
I mean, I think I don't know how long the Beastars manga actually ran, but any long-running manga almost all of them if they run into this at some point if they go long enough, right? So,
I mean, I would like to clarify. I still love these characters a lot. I'm still having a lot of fun watching the show. I still really enjoy it, but
yeah,
increasingly it's gaining what I call big Code Geass R2 energy, which is where it's super entertaining, but sort of in a sense of like we are on a roller coaster, and at any point we could be flung off to certain doom. You know, there is the what insane thing will they come up with this week to keep the plot rolling along, and it's certainly not quite that bad yet, or that good yet, if you want to.
Yeah, I'm not right, and again, I'm not.
There's a little bit of that energy.
I'm not dreading watching it every week. I'm still enjoying it by all means. It's just it's continuing to. And I think I've just accepted this at this point because we are where we are, but it's not filling. It's not as fulfilling as a watch as it was for me, in previous seasons. But
for sure,
yeah. So, and like I said, I guess these things happen when you have long running manga. Eventually they got to find some way to wrap up the story, and they don't always find the best way to steer the ship, but
I just got to get this in here. I hate looking at Melon's weird face. I hate his weird, freaky combination.
Yeah, it's almost like wow. It's almost like it's he's meant to be kind of off-putting and strange. I mean, the last thing I'll say that look, this is the thing we always complain about with like Joker-style villains. Like, it's always like so fucking like. There's always that suspension of disbelief, especially with like Melon like bossing around the Lion Mafia. There's like 6 or 7 of them. I'm pretty sure they could take him. I'm pretty sure they could take him. Like I don't.
I barely understood why they let Lewis become their boss. Even that doesn't make much sense.
The logic there was because Lewis killed the previous boss,
right? But like the Melon one feels like makes even less sense. But whatever.
Yeah, he's just so unhinged. He's so unpredictable.
Just so twisted. I know. It's the Joker thing. He killed that guy with a pencil. We have to do everything he says. It's
what if he had damaged tattooed on his forehead?
Oh God! All right. Well, I think on that note we should move on. We got 2 more episodes left of whatever part of the final season this is, but we'll get back to that next time. All right. Well, Apothecary Diaries, how's that going? Anything new going on?
It's good.
Yeah. I'm continuing to enjoy it. Sorry, I was like I've been talking a lot, so I was waiting for somebody else to.
I think the problem we've had all along with the Apothecary Diaries is that it continues to be good in like a non-spectacular, very solid and predictable way, and that's good. It's just not necessarily the best podcast fodder.
Right.
Yeah.
Was there anything in particular in these 2 episodes that stood out?
There's a very dumb twist in the second of these 2 episodes.
I mean, yeah, these are some very teen mysteries, kind of conspiracies. But I think it's just Apothecary Diaries does it well enough, likably enough that I kind of chuckle and go, "Oh, you." The first of these episodes kind of bring it. I don't know how I quite feel about this, but episode 30 is kind of the culmination of a subplot, which is the Crystal Pavilion, the blue one, the blue one, the big titty blue
concubine.
It's kind of a culmination of that plot line, which is like the Crystal Pavilion is like consistently like the most like seemingly incompetent, self-harming court of concubines. Like they are the ones who would shake the baby. Like they are they are the one they're the ones who are like, they put a drop of arsenic in the baby's milk, it'll help her go to sleep. Like they've been the subject of that style of plot line. And this episode posits, you see, it's not that the Crystal Pavilion's just fucking incompetent and bad at their jobs, but actually it's a long term conspiracy by the handmaiden of the Crystal Pavilion, who is the concubine's cousin, who is resentful because her and the actual concubine were raised to one day be a concubine for the emperor, but the emperor chose the actual concubine instead of her. So she's been secretly seeding all of these dangerous situations on purpose.
And of course, it ends with everybody in a room while Mao Mao explains the mystery, and then the villain does a crazy breakdown of you'll never take me alive, copper.
It's very Ace Attorney coded.
Yes, absolutely.
It's fine. I mean, it's a little you see, the big boobed lady was nice after all. She just had poor choice in hiring, and it's like, all right, sure, yeah, whatever.
Are you guys getting tired of bored of it, tired of it? Even though it's still quality wise, okay.
That's kind of the thing is, although the stuff we've just described is kind of cliched, it's still fun because they sprinkle it with some good jokes, and Mao Mao's just an enjoyable character to root for.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm only asking because we're now 30 episodes in or something, right? It's like, look, okay, yeah, man, that sounds.
You might as well ask me, how do I feel about Columbo 30 episodes in?
All right, fair enough. Yes,
it's that kind of show, right?
It's something you can just keep repeating over and over again, and it still works, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
As Zig alluded to, the twist in episode 31 is pretty. I mean, I laughed. I thought I was quite entertained because I called it right. I was like, oh, okay, I know exactly where this is going.
Yeah. I think for us, Iro called it about a third of the way into the episode, right?
Yeah,
it was something like that. But.
The plot line there, and again, it's very it's very serial mystery because this episode suddenly explains out of nowhere that actually all the previous emperors were crowned by making them go through an escape room. And the one who successfully escaped the room would become emperor. And it's like,
okay, what?
Yeah, all right, man. Whatever you say.
That building was just always there, we just walked past it every
time.
Mao Mao is like, I never noticed that building before, and I'm like, it's the size of a hall, it's a gigantic.
It's so funny because just
the Forbidden City's big, but not that big.
Because just last episode we were talking about how she never noticed this giant medical complex on site, and it's just it pushes the thing of again they establish it. Oh, Mao Mao is smart but selectively observant, and so that they keep using that excuse of she has her Columbo-esque observation powers, but it's not a passive ability. It's only on when she activates it. So that's how she has missed these insanely obvious things that any normal human being should have noticed if you worked at the same office for a year, 2 years, you would not just be like, there was a
building across the street.
Time?
Yeah, right?
It's no, it's you. But anyways,
and also it's not even that there is just the giant secret emperor test building. Also, it just happens that Mao Mao's handmaiden friend is the secret judge of character who has been looking after the emperor test building and administering the test for 80 years or whatever.
Yes, yeah. It's very goofy, but it's fine. The twist is fun if predictable, but
and insane if you think about it for more than a single second.
Oh no, the logistics of a lineage based on, we could just say it out loud.
Yeah, just say it.
Basing your entire lineage on requiring your head of state to be colorblind is
what?
A truly unhinged decision.
So the idea is that the test, to cut a long story short, and they do disguise it fairly well, but the test is to test whether people are colorblind, because the idea is that colorblindness runs in the true imperial lineage's family.
Right.
But okay. Yeah, you're right. If you think too, I'm not going to think too hard about it. Because I'm other people can be colorblind too. But
it's also, the thing isn't even
why that would even matter.
Like,
yeah, right.
The thing I pointed out is that women
genetic
cannot be colorblind, or cannot be colorblind, but it's much rarer for them than men.
I'm actually willing to forgive that because, like, okay, fine, one colorblind woman might actually like make some waves in history if put in the right place, because that would be like strange and like unheard of for like 99.9% of people. It's just the like. I don't even want to do the statistical math, but like how many male children would you need to have per generation to guarantee one of them was colorblind?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's not math.
It's very goofy, is what we're saying.
That's not how genetics work.
Right.
Also, the current emperor is not colorblind, even though he is a legitimate descendant.
Well,
yeah, they bring up that all of his siblings died.
Right.
Okay.
And the implication is it's some like Habsburgian situation where with color blindness came some weird specific vulnerability to an illness.
Oh, okay. Color blindness is the Habsburg chin. Is that?
Yes.
They say a few times that like, it's probably best that that there's not too much family intermarriage, because what's the turn of phrase they use? It can lead to vulnerability. Vulnerability. They don't just say, freaky mutations will happen.
Yes.
Yeah, well, all right.
But, I mean, it's fine, because I guess if you want to actually look at this like episode from like a more like overall plotline structure, I mean, this is the episode that all but states that Jinshi is the Emperor's brother, that he is not actually a eunuch, that
there's long been a sort of open secret to the audience, but they are bringing it up directly.
It is fun that Mao Mao is so selectively oblivious about it. She's like, the Emperor seems to like to have this guy around a lot and treat him well. I wonder what that means. Oh, well, it's probably nothing.
People kowtow to this random eunuch. And it's... The thing I kind of do like about this... the one thing I do kind of like about this dynamic is, like... Jinshi, clearly either because of the pressures of his position or his pride, cannot bring himself to reveal this... willingly reveal this vulnerability to Mao Mao. But he clearly wants her to figure it out. He is like, he clearly kind of wants Mao Mao to take the agency away from him and be like, yeah, please uncover my secret. Like, please uncover my scandalous secret. I'm begging you. Because clearly Jinshi feels a great degree of like consternation about like having to keep this secret. I think the implication is, I mean, there's obviously a romantic angle, but I think there's also I need to share this secret with somebody else, right? Like, I so just want to like talk openly about this to anyone, preferably Mao Mao. But my pride, my whatever, my hangups, my societal hangups, I can't just tell her that. Like, it would be like there has to be a chase.
Yeah.
But what?
Yeah.
I do feel like it's kind of implied that there's a political reason he can't openly be the Emperor's brother, but they haven't gotten into that really.
Yeah.
Well, the moment you have a blood-related sibling, that creates a potential succession crisis, right? So
right. But then why did the Emperor simply not kill him like normally happens?
Well, I mean, maybe because the Emperor seems like an okay dude in this show. Like,
by Emperor standards, he's practically a saint.
Yes. By the standards of heads of state, he seems like a relatively decent guy. Like, or at least not a like, not a baby killing style of Emperor. Like
real low baseline here, but yes.
Look, man, we're talking about ancient kings, man.
Like, I got you. Yep.
You know,
yeah.
I mean, he's relatable. He likes the big booba. You know, like
he's not a creepy pedophile like his father.
Yeah. He saw his father creeping on young chicks and course corrected so hard in the opposite direction that it is difficult to find enough women in ancient China to satisfy his highly specific fetishes.
All right.
Yeah.
On that note,
It's the little things.
It's the little things, yeah. Ira, did you have something to add? Were you trying to say something?
No, I think you basically covered. I think some of the things you're talking about will like be addressed later.
I'm sure, yeah.
Maybe not in ways you necessarily will be satisfied by, but you know,
well,
like
I appreciate that they'll get around to it.
if they're thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're calling season 1, there was a lot of talk of like maybe there was babies switched at some point, or a secret about
right,
etc., and that's still relevant and whatnot. And the foreign dignitaries are not through either. I would say
the white women are still in play,
or the concept of other people trying to influence the palace rat side of it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's been solid. Like everybody said.
Well, that keeps trucking along, I guess. It's good to have something we can rely on.
I would say broadly this season's most consistent show.
Yeah.
All right.
Also, we should probably mention still a ratings juggernaut.
Yeah.
So I can see how it appeals to a lot of people. So yeah. All right. Let's talk about Sorairo Utility, the golf anime. And I think the most notable thing that has happened since last episode is we randomly got a Birdie Wing collaboration. Although
hooray.
Collaboration is maybe a strong word.
Here you go, folks. Your one Birdie Wing reference of the year.
We will never mention Birdie Wing again on this podcast.
We don't get many excuses, is more what I mean.
But yes, this is an actual excuse to talk about Birdie Wing. They did some random little video on YouTube. It's like little chibi talking
it's like a
heads.
shitty little webtoon. Yeah,
it's not really like a real animation. And they at least got the voice actresses, I guess, to come in and say some stuff. But it's like, what would happen if these characters met? And if not much apparently, but
yeah.
If I'm gonna read too much into things, here's my theory on the collaboration. So
okay, let me hear it.
In the collaboration, the girls from Sorairo Utility are kind of looking up to even Aoi as like their older senpais.
The senpai, sure.
Senpais.
And the girls in Sorairo Utility range in age from somewhere between 15 to 20, let's say. So if the oldest girl is 20, and we're still assuming even Aoi are older than them, this has to occur after the time skip, after the end of Birdie Wing.
Okay.
In which case, my theory is now even Aoi have ended all conflict in the world of golf, and
okay,
a new golden age of golf. People are getting into golf again.
There's a new golden age where people of all ages and skill level can now enjoy golf without fear, and which is wild.
Even Aoi are living gods of the sport who walk among the earth.
Yes, because of course they were instantly recognized by these girls, right? Yes. And go ahead, Zig.
Here's my counterpoint. That sounds really boring.
Well, the end of Birdie Wing was pretty boring.
And this collab was also pretty boring. I mean,
and
it's the worst type of collab.
Yeah,
where it's just like the dialogue is just, "Whoa, we're in a collab. That's crazy."
We should also point out this episode is like 2.5 minutes long.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, there's two of them that combine for like 5 minutes, right?
Sure.
But yes, the only good part is when Eve mentions kissing Aoi, and they all go "Kya!" But anyway,
she doesn't even threaten to kill anyone in golf.
Parentheses in golf.
What I'm getting from this is that Sorairo Utility was trying to draft off of the massive success and popularity of Birdie Wing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know how popular Sorairo Utility actually is, but they're funded by Yostar, who has God knows how much money. So I think they'll be okay.
The gotcha money.
So, anyway, these episodes were all right. The first episode had some fun bits where I think if they had taken it farther, this would have been a good episode. But like, they did have a good bit where the main girl is trying to figure out her special move, right? And the old guys that are their friends at the driving range are like, I remember reading this when we were kids. We would read this like hot-blooded golf sports manga, and we would try to come up with our own special moves. And so they all step up to the tee to do their special move, and when they do, the art shifts styles. So like one guy might be like, this 65-year-old man, and then suddenly the art style shifts so he looks like Dutogo or something like that. And
sure.
And he'll do a special move, and then the first guy does a special move, and instantly his back goes out, and they have to call an ambulance.
Yep.
The next, and they do, if you want the good, I'm not going to credit Just Trigger for this, but the good comedic timing, the next guy steps up at the same thing, does his big intense special move, and then his back goes out and he's got to go to the hospital. And then the next guy, but the last one being the best because he's like the last guy's like supposed to be like 80 or something. He's like really old, and he's like, see, you don't even need power. And his is like he grazes the ball and it spins a certain way or whatever. And he's like, see, can't hurt myself now. And then smash cut to him being put in the ambulance.
Of course,
it's very good.
To be fair, that is a Trigger classic. It's funny when you repeat things.
Yes. Well, I mean, I'm other people do that. It's not just a Trigger thing, but Trigger does stuff like that all the time, right? But yeah, so that was fun. And then the rest of the episode, I also liked the idea, but I wish they went further with it. Where
I feel like every time you're saying, I wish they went further with it for this show. Like,
they're like 75% of the way to a good idea.
They got
the show would just embrace the dark Hado.
Yeah, like the one time they went for it was like the hot-blooded golf contest I talked about last time, right? Yeah. But so this one they get a golf app on their iPad which has like these different challenges, like hit the ball over here or this or whatever, and which I'm sure I didn't do the research. I'm sure there's apps like that exist, right?
Yeah, there's.
But like with no explanation, once they like tap the app, they're actually in the episode transformed into a virtual world, or that's how it's presented. And they're like in VR golf world, even though it's just like the app or whatever.
Like in Birdie Wing.
Like Birdie Wing.
I was going to say, is that where they met Eve and Howie?
Well, in Birdie Wing, they would literally had VR or whatever. This was like, I think this was still supposed to be like their imagination or whatever.
In the mind's eye, sure.
I'm like, oh, that's potentially fun. And they kind of don't really do anything. It just becomes like over glorified like mini golf obstacles with the windmill or something like that, like blocking your golf ball or whatever.
I have the visual bit in my head, like the version of this episode that is directed or made by the people who made Bocchi the Rock.
Yes,
you would have the sequence where like this suddenly turns into like a like Dreamcast golf game.
Yes. Oh god, that would have been so good.
Bright saturated polygons. Somebody shouting in Japanese English, "Nice on!"
Yeah.
What I'm hearing is that this show is... I completely forgot what I was going to say.
Yeah. Well, if it comes back to us, let us know, Zig. But yes.
Oh, yes, I was going. This show is basically keep your hands off Eizouken, but with golf.
I wish. Yeah.
No, that was not intended to be a genuine comparison.
Well, this episode was kind of in that concept, and they just didn't really do much with it. But I will say the last hole was kind of fun because the last hole just like 100 gun turrets and cannons popped up and just destroyed the ball anytime they tried to hit it over a certain way. And the main girl got to use her special move, which is the penguin shot, where the ball stays low across the ground. But anyway, I don't have anything to say about the next. This is the other problem. The next episode, just nothing happened interesting. They go play golf. They meet up with this older lady who's a caddy that apparently knows one of the girls and used to play golf herself, and they have fun playing golf, and that's it. So like that's the problem. You might have one episode that's kind of fun, and then the next that's like, okay, they're playing golf. But anyway,
My visual image of you watching this show is like someone scraping the plate for the final crumbs of food, just trying to like get as much sustenance out of
I'm
that.
gonna
little
squeeze
bit.
whatever I can out of the
Yeah.
Or I'm like squeezing a lemon or something and trying to get like the absolute last drop out of it.
That might be a little cruel, but you know where I'm coming from.
Yes, I'm taking anything I can get. I mean, like I was saying, I mean, it is a charming show. So like, it's not like I'm not enjoying it to some degree. Like there's some nice little jokes and the characters are fun, but it's just like so not ambitious at all, and there's not enough of like the fun stuff to make it like really all that interesting. But I'm committed now, I guess. So it is what it is. I'm really just in it to see the eye catches that look like trigger art at this point. So.
Have you should take some of those eye catches and see if you can like
line them up to Gurren Lagann or something.
Yeah, if they line up to that one specific like 5-second like was it like the
audio sting,
from the Gurren Lagann eye catch. Yeah.
Oh yeah, just make a super cut of all of them with that music.
Like wow, row, fight the power.
I think the last one I linked to you guys, I could definitely hear row fight the power over it with the old guys. But yes, all right. Well, I have a feeling I'm at least enjoying that more than you
You're
guys.
Still
are
having a better time with that show than I think Iro and I are having with Zenshu.
Uh-huh.
All right. What did they do?
The show kind of just continues to be ass, but ass in like occasionally interesting ways that frustrate me.
Yeah. They did they probably had the best episode yet, because it's the episode that does not take place in the Isekai world at all. It's all flashback.
We get a flashback episode, and just real quick, episode 6 is just Natsuko has to learn to work with a team, and so her big moment in that episode is like just animating stairs, which is like on a meta level almost kind of fun, because it's like you see like animators have to be good at mundane things too sometimes, right?
It's the Shirobako tire joke.
Yeah, it's not all Sakuga, right? Like every part of like animation contributes meaningfully to the whole. Whatever, it's still a fucking ass episode. Episode 7 is legitimately like, it is probably the most look back adjacent episode of Zenshu so far. In that, basically, it jumps between like. Or it progresses between like 4 times or three major periods in Natsuko's life, but from the perspective of an outsider who crossed paths with her. And the joke, or kind of the bit, being that each time this person like basically fell in love with Natsuko, like by like being charmed by her passion, her devotion to the arts, her like creative drive, and like loving like that, like just loving that aspect of who she is, right? And it's kind of interesting because you kind of see the progression of like, how does she become the genius animator that she becomes by episode 1. I think I like it more in theory than in execution. Like, there are shades of look back, there are shades of Eizouken in there, right? There's like the joke about how she'll like just approach like like she approaches this boy in middle school and is like, keep drinking that water bottle. I want to see the way your Adam's apple moves when you drink liquid. And it's like, it's unhinged, but also in that way that it feels very in line with like what it kind of means to be an artist, right? I mean,
it's a weird thing from a place of genuine passion. Yeah, exactly, right? Like it's kind of, it's that's kind of what art makes you do, I have looked at maybe 42 pictures of the Final Fantasy summon Alexander in the last week for a project I can't speak on at the moment, but it had to be Alexander. It couldn't be anything else.
Which version of Alexander are we talking?
I had to look at all of them. I had to look at every incarnation of Alexander across the entire Final Fantasy franchise to develop an understanding of like the progression of the visual design of that specific summon.
What's the best one?
Can you? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, man, off the top of my head, shoot. Oh man, do I still have the board up? Let me see here. I do. I'm sorry, I can't identify them by sight alone. Like,
that's fair, yeah.
This was part of the experiment. I was like, every Alexander looks like Alexander, despite the fact that they all look different. What is it that makes Alexander Alexander?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, sorry, apologies for the tangent. Point is, that's kind of what studying art makes you do, and that's kind of what this episode gets into. Is like, Natsuko has always been this type of weird, hyper-focused obsessive. You know, she and there's this interesting aspect where she clearly loves it, but like there's like a remarkable lack of love in her, if that makes sense. Like, she's very clinical about her like perfection, and despite that, it inspires a deep amount of emotion in other people. And like, maybe that is the thing that makes art special, right? Is that it's not so much what it means to the person making it as much as what it represents to the people who experience it. And that's like a message I can appreciate, you know?
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that it doesn't really compel me on Natsuko as a character. Because the bit is that she is like this sort of emotionless super genius who just like effortlessly arts her way through her entire like childhood and young adult life.
Right. The like thread here is meant to be because the anime she was having trouble working on at the beginning was a movie about young first love, and so this episode is about all these people having their first love in her, while she never reciprocates or even understands this concept all the way to the end. Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's also just not what the show has been, right? Like,
right. I mean, it's gonna be, she finally, I bet you it's just gonna be, she finally feels it for Luke Strongheart or whatever the hell.
Luke Braveheart.
Yeah, it's... And we're also getting into what like the director of Tale of Perishing has her avatar in the story, who is here to tell off Natsuko for changing the story too much.
Yeah, there is like
right.
Yeah, there's like one thread that could be interesting here, and I hate that like it's enough to grab me because I know Zenshu's not going to do a good job with it because it hasn't given me any reason to believe in it up till now. But like, Natsuko briefly like entertains the idea of like, oh, I'm having a really good time in Tale of Perishing, but like Tale of Perishing was a tragedy. Like, is it okay to turn this story into a happy story? And the avatar of Tale of Perishing's director basically says, no, what are you doing to my story? And I think the thematic through line here is going to be like, despite the fact that Tale of Perishing was in universe a flop, a weird, subversive, quote unquote subversive, it's an extremely generic fantasy story, but
right,
quote unquote subversive tragedy, you know, and that what's probably going to happen here is that like the director always intended it for it to be that way. That was her intent, right? The original artist's intent was for Tale of Perishing to be a tragedy. And what does it mean for another artist down the line to change that, to change the story, to change the artistic work itself, right? And I hate it because there's a really interesting through line there, right?
So,
of like, what is
here's where I say we might still be reading too much into it and like imprinting that upon the show that may not actually explore these things in any way whatsoever.
True,
right?
True. But
yeah,
it's a shame because like the fact that you even paused it, the fact that you even like left enough crumbs on the plate for me to even connect the dots this way, like this is the thing that always kind of bothers me about like metatextual narratives is that I think you can do really, really interesting things about like interrogating the nature of like art itself. But man, do a lot of people kind of swing and a miss on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, did they do any good homages anymore? Or are they not doing that anymore?
No, not a one. Not
I will shout out that the one segment about the guy in college or whatever who's just anime Tensho.
He is just anime Tensho. Yeah, that is true.
Well,
yeah.
Sounds fun, guys. Sounds fun.
Hooray!
We get our and end every one of these segments with saying "Go watch, look back." Anyway,
yeah.
Let's move on. We wrapped up one Sentai show last episode.
The Hashilian gay conspiracy is over.
And once one ends, another one must begin. There's no breaks ever. So, do you guys want to talk?
There haven't been any breaks for 50 years.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
And I know. There's already you can go to the glorioblog.com and read written first impressions on this. But why don't you tell me about number one Sentai Gozyuger?
Gozyuger, yes.
Gozyuger. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, this is a little complicated, but bear with me here. What if there were lots of different Sentai and they fought each other?
Okay.
Do each one have still have their own thing? Like one's cars, one's dinosaurs.
Do they drop from the sky?
All of these questions are as currently unanswered because as of this recording, we have only seen one episode.
Okay.
But this episode opens pretty strongly in that it opens with a shot of all of the robots from 50 years of Sentai, or a lot of them, let's say, being defeated by some nameless evil, and then the new robot descends from the sky like an angel, and the old robots give them all its power, and it beats up all the bad guys because clearly the new robot is the coolest robot around.
I guess we should point out it is the 50th anniversary show.
Yes, it is the 50th anniversary show, although it is only the 49th series due to weird timekeeping stuff.
Right, but their out for this is that Lupin Ranger versus Pat Ranger had two teams, so it really is the 50th Sentai.
It is both the 50th anniversary and the 50th team by that.
So that explains the battle royale or whatever is about to happen. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Generally, for the big anniversary shows, they have some sort of massive crossover thing to them, which has gradually swollen from a one-off special movie to an entire series and associated merchandising blitz, because that's just how this works, really.
Yeah. I mean, 50 is a big number, so you do the full series.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to go on an impression from one episode, but I will say that this episode looks fantastic. It is packed full of cool action. They blow up a lot of stuff. There are a lot of spectacular pyro effects.
Red Ranger does an OTG combo on a mook.
Yep.
That sounds all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm 100% serious too.
He ground bounces him?
Yes.
Does he do an electric?
Kind of. I'll have to find the clip.
He missed the just frame input for that. But yes, it is a very big, flashy, action-packed opener, which is fairly typical for Sentai shows. They don't lean too heavily on the crossover stuff in this first episode.
Anyway. Yeah.
But as Iro suggests, that's probably coming. I thought it was pretty good, but again, it's very hard to say. These first episodes are so formulaic that it's difficult to get a solid grasp. I do not immediately hate the Red Ranger, which is a pretty good sign, because there definitely have been a few that I have immediately hated.
Okay, that's a good start then.
Yeah. And as noted, there were a lot of cool special effects. This one that they don't often do. There were a lot of real fire pyrotechnics.
Yes,
they lit a sword. They lit a sword on fire to have a flaming sword.
Yeah.
You know, you can always tell when it's real fire.
The old Ban Gun-ha, they set him on fire.
Yep.
Yeah. There was a lot of giant robots being thrown into buildings that then spectacularly explode, which is always notable because it means they have to blow up part of the set, which is obviously a fairly major consideration. But yes, the action in this first sequence was spectacular. They reportedly brought in some extra guys to make it all go smoothly. You know, anniversary seasons do tend to have boosted budgets a lot of the time because there is such a huge merchandising blitz surrounding them. We'll have to see where they go. You know, one of the weirdest aspects of this first episode was that they have the Red Ranger from Boon Boomja in it, the show that just ended.
Bacter, yeah.
Yeah, but he's not playing. Yeah, as I always suggest, he's not playing his character from Boon Boomja. He's playing a completely separate character who turns into a different Red Ranger.
Okay.
I don't know if that is an indication that they're going to kind of like go with an alternate universe thing here, where like familiar characters will transform into different Rangers or something.
Only show him in the suit.
Is it like
no, he's there.
I mean, when if he comes back as the other one,
they just really like that actor specifically, or
possibly it like nobody's quite sure, which is why it comes across as so weird. You know, like he is playing a very different type of character to the extent that it took us a few minutes to realize it was actually him. And yeah, it's just one of those odd things that you're not sure is this a thing that's going to be happening going forward, or was this just a one-off thing where they like the guy's about, let's cast him, you know.
Yeah.
So we'll see, but and. The thing I said in my first look is that there's a very pleasing sort of 70s super robot showness to the first episode where it's like, oh, the robot is the wise mentor who is all powerful and like grants them their abilities and stuff, and is like, you know, you must, you know, I will guide you.
Number one.
Yeah. And all sorts of stuff, you know, and yeah, it was a fun opening episode. It's hard to say too much more from it than that because we haven't even met any of the other Rangers yet. They show up in very brief cameos. But I'm fairly certain that, for example, the Black Ranger will be stylish and sexy but mysterious. The Blue Ranger will be cool but butt heads with the Red Ranger. The Pink Ranger will be a girl. That's her characterization as well. She's a girl.
Although the Black Ranger is a girl this time.
Yes, that is new, actually.
Oh, okay.
But yes.
The little things that they do to Sentai to make it fresh.
Hey, call me when the Pink Ranger... Time. Call me when the Pink Ranger's a guy, and then we'll talk.
That's already happened.
Yeah, that happened in Dawn Brothers.
Okay, well, there you go.
Yeah.
He was also CG, so...
Call me when the Pink Ranger is a real human guy.
I mean, there have been male Pink Rangers before in anniversary shows and stuff like that.
Okay,
but yeah, it's hard to say. It's a good start, but again, we will report back when there is more to report. But at the moment, all we can say is there's some really cool like practical effects, and you should watch it if you enjoy just an appreciation of cool practical effects.
Yeah.
You know, G, you asked if they all fall on an island. This is a lot closer to G Gundam than a battle royale.
So it's like a tournament.
It seems like it. We get a whole sequence when, you know, the two guys start fighting. They jump into a spectral wrestling ring, and each have their own wrestling intros. Where the bad guy has all his mooks cheering in the back for him, and then the Red Ranger has an ON Don show up and start cheering.
Of course.
And
all right,
we'll see.
Sounds fun.
He does a palm strike on the other robot's head, so.
Does taking out the head, is that...
I don't know.
What's the whole fucking...
Gundam
spiel?
Fight Rules and Regulations.
Yes, the Gundam Fight Rules and Regulation Article 1 states that the destruction of the head, or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the cockpit is illegal.
The only other thing I will note is that it looks like this time around the monsters are not going to grow giant. Instead, they are going to have giant mechs themselves, which is an unusual bit of the formula, but predictably has happened before a couple of times.
Yes.
Okay, I was about to say, surely it did not take half a century for some coked-out Japanese exec to go, put the monsters in a robot too.
No, it's happened a couple of times.
Right, I think Decker Ranger does that, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And before you ask, yes, the Rangers growing giant has been done as well.
The Rangers themselves.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, remember Green Ranger did it.
Get Ultraman's lawyers on the phone.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
we will report back.
We'll touch back in on our next Toku update.
I also want to very briefly mention Kamen Rider Gav, because in the last episode, in a flashback, while she was attempting to help a child escape from the evil drug factory, a woman was thrown into an acid bath and dissolved in front of our eyes.
Yep.
Yep.
Killed that lady.
That sounds about right based on what you've told us about this Kamen Rider so far.
But also, it's still about cool candy. Like, the second rider got a new dark chocolate themed power up. This show's weird.
Yeah, I remember the last time Aqua talking about spraying his sister with white stuff and she died or something.
I was not there for that one, but I will echo what Iro and Aqua said, which is the show is good, but the tonal whiplash is really harsh, even by Toku standards. Like, just the whiplash between the things that are happening in the plot and, the surface level, we need to sell toys and themed products and stuff is more irreconcilable than it's ever been before.
Yeah.
Definitely feels like one of those shows that almost, again, this is not to imply one thing or another about its quality, but it feels like, I will say from my perspective, that feels like a Kamen Rider that is on the verge of maybe breaking containment, because I've definitely just seen on my feed clips of what I am 99% sure is a Kamen Rider, because I don't know, it's a dude beating up another guy and getting angry over a hot dog, and I think that's a Kamen Rider.
Don't think there's been a hot dog theme yet, but you can tell that there is real care and love put in from the writers to try and tell an actual story, but also this is a commercial that is designed to sell toys, and
of course,
there is only so far away you could get from that.
Yeah.
And I will say that the creative tension makes it interesting. It's just sort of so... The tension is so jarring that it sort of disconcerts the whole experience to a certain
extent. It does mean
extent.
that when anything serious happens, everybody looks at each other and goes, "What? Did they just do that?
They just melt that
in the candy show?"
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll do it for the presently airing things. And I told you guys we would find time for your backlog this episode.
I actually have a very important question about the backlog, which I will discuss when we get to the relevant section.
Well, if anybody missed last week, you guys are watching Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex and Planets, and you talked a little bit about your general thoughts on that, but now we actually have a little bit of time to talk more about it.
Do we? Yeah.
Well, it's a lot more than we had last time.
I suppose so. Yes.
We've gone from we had negative 10 minutes last time. So
fair enough. Yeah. Well, I mean, Arrow, how do you want to handle? Do you want to talk about each show individually, or do you just kind of want to bop around? I guess
it's I can go in order, I guess.
Sure. Then I guess, I want to give you the chance to talk about your thoughts on Standalone Complex so far.
Standalone Complex so far has been a lot of standalone and not a lot of complex, which is fine by me. My understanding is the last fourth of the show is going to be all complex.
Yes,
is what I've been told. It has been good. It's been fun, right? It's seen, again, all of these cyberpunk tropes in a older, more innocent light.
A very post 2000s show.
Yeah.
I've always thought that Standalone Complex is interesting in the sense that it takes, the original Standalone Complex, the original Ghost in the Shell, rather, which is, quite a slow philosophical movie.
We're talking about the Oshi film, correct?
Yes, the Oshi
right, because
film.
the manga is pretty pulpy, right?
Yes,
the manga is full, 80s schlock, to be honest.
Which is what I was going to say, which is it sort of takes the Oshi film and then repulpifies it slightly.
A little
and
bit.
That's, yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying that Standalone Complex suddenly becomes some goofy, balls out comedy, but it is a little bit more traditionally action-oriented than the very slow, kind of thoughtful film.
But then it will still have episodes, for example, where all of it's just the entire episode is just the Tachikoma talking amongst themselves about, I don't know, whether they're going to be decommissioned, whether they truly have a ghost, or what have you. Right.
That's a pretty good episode.
Yeah.
I think the thing that's interesting about Standalone Complex, and the thing that always kind of hit for me, is that yes, it. Here's the thing. I respect Oshi. I respect Oshi's vision of a lot of things. I have a great deal of respect for what he has done for Pat Labor and Ghost in the Shell. Do I like what he has done with those properties? Is kind of a different can of worms. I have some feelings about I have some feelings about both Pat Labor 2 and Ghost in the Shell 2, if I'm being quite honest.
Sure.
But I think there's this interesting thing happening, right, where Oshi kind of quote unquote classes up Ghost in the Shell, and then Standalone Complex kind of I'm not going to say dumbs it down, but kind of makes it a little bit more accessible again by kind of taking more of the aesthetics of a police procedural.
Yeah, that's the thing I was trying to get at when I say it repulpifies it a little. It makes it a little bit more, well, as you say, kind of accessible by reframing it into perhaps less somber, weighty terms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How many episodes are you guys in on it?
Gosh, what, 18, 19?
I think around there, yes. Yeah. So
entering the home stretch. Granted, Sentinel Complex has a season 2.
I was going to say, you're going to do second gig as well.
We'll find out.
We'll see. It's funny. I actually, in some ways, kind of like second gig a little bit more, but it's hard to top. I mean, well, here's the thing. Well, this has kind of been the interesting thing about revisiting Standalone Complex, because in my mind, Standalone Complex season 1, especially the Laughing Man stuff, is this really heady, interesting sci-fi examination of reality, tangible reality, the conveyance of information. And I think a lot of that stuff actually does still hit really hard. But I think a lot of it also was inspired by Standalone Complex and has taken those plot points in even further than the original show did. It's become a bit now. The number of times we'll watch an episode, Eero will be like, so is the twist this time that he's been dead all along and been using an AI puppet, or he downloaded his brain elsewhere, or so, because it's just it's the nature of a transhumanist story in which consciousness can be a tangible, digitized entity. Of course you're going to do of course the plot twist for half these damn standalone episodes are just he was dead the whole time, the ghost in the machine, But I think
as you brought up, the Laughing Man stuff, it is in its own way perhaps even more pertinent now than at the time, because at the time was the rise of the internet age and whatnot, and as we have seen in reality, even more so than they were afraid of at the time, the rise of the internet has allowed for misinformation and the dissemination of false realities in a far more insidious and
way less cool.
For just to recap real quick for people who are not familiar, the Laughing Man case in Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex is basically about this anonymous super hacker who is so good at hacking that he can simultaneously hack everybody's vision and displays, because this is a cyberpunk world in which everybody is to some extent augmented, to have like
right.
augmented reality, like Google Glass, essentially. You know, like
he's just so good at hacking that he could walk out into the street and kill a CEO, and nobody knows who it is. All of the cameras don't know who it is.
Right. Like
even though all the eyewitnesses don't know,
cannot identify him, right? Because even the people who are physically there cannot see him. They cannot tangibly recognize his reality, like that he is real. He's actually there, and it's an interesting thing.
In a very real sense. In a very real sense, he is a reality warper in a world where magic doesn't exist, but he still has that power.
And of course, then what the show posits is, what if technology enabled that, right? What terrifying, upsetting ways would reality untangle in a world where you cannot even trust your own tangible, like your own like senses anymore? And then how do you hunt a criminal like that? Like how do you hunt a criminal you cannot perceive until they have already committed the act? And at the time, that was already like a, obviously, like, in many ways, the Laughing Man case is informed by the same things that, like, Kojima was informed by when he wrote about, like, the S3 plan in Metal Gear Solid 2, right? Like, the fear of, like, what the internet will do to, like, our conception of reality.
Yeah.
And watching it in 2025, in which, like, people can just be selective with the reality they choose to interpret. Like, I mean, I don't want to get too deep into it, right? But just, we all know that, like, there are just people out there where, when confronted with a fact or a reality that they don't like, the internet allows them the out to just pick the reality they prefer.
Right.
And
I think it's kind of rude to talk about Joe when he's right here, to be honest.
there are just people who hear the Anohana version of Secret Base, and they just go, yeah, this is better.
Yeah.
Look at
and then they're sucked into the misinformation vortex that just reinforces all their preconceptions.
I work so hard to keep the GLORIO blog running, and this is the level of respect.
Joe reads a fake AI generated article about the true origins of the Secret Base song, about how actually it was written in 2001. Yeah, right.
Yep. I have my AI generated version of the song that
It's better than the one that the rest of us ever.
I will say, G, that I think all of the things you're saying are true, and I think Standalone Complex is fantastic, and in some ways is probably better than the original films, or definitely than the manga, but than the Oshi films as well. I kind of have a grudge against the Laughing Man arc, because there was definitely a period in the mid to late 2000s where you could go to an anime con and every fucker would be wearing those badges.
Now I know. I finally know what the hell that is, right? That I've been seeing for so many years.
Right, I've been making jokes about that badge for like as long as we have known each other.
In some ways, I kind of like you're completely right, Zig. In some ways, I am also like deeply fascinated by like the mimetic nature of the Laughing Man symbol, because obviously that kind of ties into the plot line of Standalone Complex itself, right? The dissemination of an more a symbol than a man, right? And how, I mean, even in universe, right? There's a whole episode about Laughing Man impersonators who all like have misinterpreted the will of the Laughing Man to suit their own political and ideological aims that squares more conveniently with their vision of what that represents. And the thing that's like, I think works with the Laughing Man is because, here's the thing. I guarantee you, even our readings on the Laughing Man may differ from like, are different from whatever, are also informed by our own personal biases and like and experiences, right? I mean, I'll be very curious, like, kind of what your overall read on the Laughing Man will be by the end of Standalone Complex era. But yeah, it's a plot line that I think kind of shows that, well, depressingly, some dystopias never go out of style.
I mean, and to a certain extent, I don't want to downplay the foresight of the show, because clearly, it was uncanny in predicting many things, but it's based on the very ancient idea that information is power, right? And that has always been true. So, it's less kind of something that has come become depressingly true in recent years, and more a new manifestation of an ancient
That is
idea.
true. Yes.
A reminder that human nature does not change, but yes.
No, I mean, look,
any time in any age.
Look, we all. I have listened to old episodes of Legend of the GLORIO Heroes where we go, man, it's just like it's happening right now. And you know what? Here's the thing: if we watch Legend of the Galactic Heroes again now, we would still say, man, it's like it's happening right now.
Even more so. Yeah, that's like I keep.
They were saying it 40 years ago, man. Like,
and what is it Sam Vimes says? Don't put your trust in revolutions. They always come around. That's why they're called revolutions.
Yes.
I keep saying how when I watched Legend of the Galactic Heroes, I was like, oh, no way we would go back to like monarchies and people wearing like
oh my God,
19th century Prussian like military uniforms
like,
and stuff.
Us
Like
joking that like that's like the least believable part about it.
And I'm like, yeah, that no, I'm not gonna rule that one out. Not gonna rule that one out.
AI generated a picture of him with a crown.
Yep. Not
Posted
gonna
on
rule
Twitter.
that out.
so on planets,
moving on.
The planets, the plot has shifted mainly to the upcoming Jupiter mission on the new Von Braun rocket.
This is where my really important question comes in.
Okay.
It's Planetes, right?
I couldn't even tell you. I tried to figure this out for a bit, and I was like, I still couldn't decide. And we've been calling it for planets for so long that
I think I've always heard people say planets. Planets.
Planetesu, right? So there could be planets, there could be planetes. Like,
right, I was just confused because I have always called it Planetes, and
the logo is in Russian.
I honestly have no idea.
So,
it's in Greek, I believe.
Greek. My bad. So I guess what is the Greek pronunciation?
I will have to look into this, but obviously I am joking, but
Yes.
I was just like, oh God, have I been wrong all this time?
Is this the Eureka 7 pronunciation question?
Eureka.
Yeah, we're calling it planets, and you're not calling her Eureka, so we're both on. We're both floating in space here for free from gravity.
Yeah. So planets, in all seriousness, I mean, planets requires less build-up here. We kind of got most of it done in the previous episode, but as Eero posits, to continue about the Von Braun mission.
We are broadly doing the Von Braun mission and its many knock-on effects regarding business in space and how that's going. So, like, a lot of the big companies are having shakeups in their management because people are being shifted to the Jupiter mission. There's a whole episode about the scientist who is pioneering it and built the rocket and all that, and how he's basically a sociopath who only cares about the mission. And so what the plot of the episode is, they're doing testing for the new rocket and it explodes on the surface of the moon and kills thousands of people, hundreds or thousands of people.
I think at least hundreds, but yes.
Hundreds. Let's say hundreds. It kills hundreds of people, technicians and scientists who are working on it. And
yes,
people are like, this is insane. And this guy is just like, well, I'm not going to suffer any consequences for this because they need me for the Jupiter mission. I'm just going to keep looking for crew that I want, like normal.
Yes. And specifically, this character, Locksmith is his name, is posited not necessarily as a villain as much as a reflection of... This is a theme that Makoto Yukimura will continue to explore. I mean, for the rest of his life, I guess.
So far.
About what it takes to be a dreamer at this scale. Like, what type... Like, it's not necessarily great man theory as much as it's
close. It
is close. You are right. You know what? It is close. Unfortunately, I try to always give a generous reading of Yukimura because I think he really does have generally very nuanced and intelligent opinions about a lot of human nature.
Right. But that's the main thing. I would not say he's necessarily doing it intentionally so much as the idea of great man theory has been so hammered into society that he
wrote this in 2000. Yeah. So of course, that was the de jure historical theory, of the time. So I can't even blame him for it. But he often gets a lot into what, not necessarily condemning, but examining what kind of person it takes to do something historic, right? because this is meant to be a reflection of Hachimaki, the kind of protagonist of planets, the space garbage man who dreams of greater, and he wants to engage. He wants to embark on the Jupiter mission. He wants to be a part of something historic, right? Like, this is a historical undertaking. Like humanity has never gone this far, this deep into space. Not on a manned mission. This is something special. This is, this is the lunar landing, right? This is being the first man in space, right? This is on that level, and he wants to be a part of it. But to be a part of it requires like a great degree of devotion, sacrifice, and like a willingness to abandon like all it's to an extent almost to abandon part of your humanity to embark on something like this, right? Like they state that like the round trip, the Jupiter mission will take 7 years, right? Like 7 years of your life gone, 7 years away from your family, your friends, from everything you've ever known, in the name of furthering, being a pioneer, furthering the mission that is the human race. And Locksmith is kind of used as the like ideological conclusion of like, you want to go to Jupiter, you want to be the first man to go to Jupiter, like
you have to be kind of insane. Like,
you kind of have to. You have to be willing to dream of things in a way that nobody else does, right? This has always kind of been, to some extent, true of like historical and scientific breakthroughs. But because Yukimura is such a humanist, because he cares so deeply about the human condition, it's an interesting contrast, I guess, because he presents this character as sort of an ideal for Hachimaki to aspire to, while the cast and storytelling of Planet is so, again, lack of a better word, so human, so personable. I mean,
yeah.
And I think this was a younger Yukimura.
Mm-hmm.
I think Planets, for me, was at its best when it was about space garbage men. Like, it was about dudes. Like, it was a workplace comedy. And the premise of each episode was just, how is picking up trash in space going to be fucked up this week?
Yeah.
And I think as they kind of develop towards this, like, it's all about this Jupiter mission, and specifically how that will affect the budding relationship between Ai and Hachimaki. Like, the unspoken 7 years that will be lost if Hachimaki goes on this mission.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, there's a reason why there's not a lot of, like, relationship drama in Vinland Saga.
There is, but in the form of manly men talking about things, right?
Yes, it's
talking about the state of the world.
Let's just say relationship drama is not necessarily like Vinland Saga's strong suit.
Indeed, yeah.
And maybe a show that focuses almost entirely on that for its final quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
we shall see.
We will see.
Yeah, but it's still interesting stuff. The backdrop of the premise is still interesting, and all that. There's way more recurring characters in that show than I thought would be.
Oh yeah,
a lot of the one-off characters from previous episodes are just showing up again all the time as secondary characters. It's like, oh, I kind of didn't expect this.
It almost kind of feels like a
it's
sitcom.
kind of
like
it's kind of renowned for having
cast
like
of actors.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Zig?
I was just going to say that one part of Planete's reputation is that it's a big cast drama, So yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Iro is the first time watcher. You're enjoying these, right?
I am enjoying them.
Okay.
And the sort of enjoyment ratio for looking at both shows together fluctuates, but I'm still enjoying both.
Oh, G, would you say your level of enjoyment has changed as your time has gone on these? Or?
I would say maybe my appreciation for these shows have changed. Because I think if I
positively or negatively, I guess, but
it's a complex question, isn't it?
Okay, yeah.
I think yes. I think if you ask me, like, okay, in terms of like my actual emotional like enjoyment of these shows, I think both shows have dimmed slightly since like because I watched both of these shows when I was like 14.
Right. A
Like,
lot has happened since then.
I
the
watched
ideologically perfect anime age.
I watched these shows at the same time I watched Goku Go Super Saiyan 3 for the first time.
Well, now it's a different world because Goku's gone Super Saiyan 4. Like, it's a fundamentally different reality.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's funny because I think my esteem of Ghost in the Shell was higher prior to this rewatch, but I have gained a greater appreciation for many of its kind of smaller moments, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like, yes, I think the overall high-level storytelling is not quite as sophisticated as I once believed, but I think the way it handles a lot of really interesting socio-political and technological or scientific concepts, I think just inherently being smarter than I was when I was 14.
Right.
Because for example, I recall as a teenager being kind of bored by the Tachikoma episode. Because it's just a bunch of robots it's just a bunch of robots with girl voices talking for 20 minutes about the nature of artificial personhood. Boring. Right. And now I'm
Where's
like,
the guns?
oh, exactly. And now I'm like, oh hell yeah, dude! It's 5 robots talking about artificial personhood for 22 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm locked in.
I think that's common to revisiting a lot of media that you liked when you were younger, is because when you come back to it, you have a much greater breadth and depth of appreciation and criticism. You see the flaws more clearly, which causes your overall estimation to go down. But you're also better at picking out the things you really liked, right?
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it.
You can see deeper into both parts of the balance.
Yeah,
definitely.
Okay.
So that's my fence-sitting answer, I guess.
No, I get it. It's a complex answer. Yeah, well, we'll probably have a little more time at some point to wrap up because you guys are close to finishing. Maybe
still a good 5 to 6 episodes to go, but
that's also the other crazy thing that you remember about watching a 26-episode series.
I know, right?
It's like you have 6, because I was telling Iro, the last 7 episodes of Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex are just about hunting down the Laughing Man. And I said that out loud, and I was like,
that's half a season.
Yeah, we don't get that anymore.
What?
Yeah,
right.
It's pretty rare nowadays. Yeah,
you're gonna spend half a core on hunting down on one arc,
right? When proportionally, it's still the same amount of time that a 1-season show would spend on its climax. It's got a different feel.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely feeling that as we go back through Eureka 7 as well, because we're coming up on 8 episodes, and only the first 2 have really been quote unquote plot relevant. Right. There's just so much more room to breathe compared to the shorter cycles of more modern shows.
Yeah. All right. Well, I know we're at time. I would like to just indulge me for a few minutes to talk about. I did not get any new listener recommendations this time, but I did continue watching Land of the Lustrous because that was the one I enjoyed the most out of the recommendations. And it is good. Obviously, I would not continue. I'm at episode 7 or 8. I would have not continued blowing through episodes if I was not did not think it was really good. I don't want to give. I kind of don't want to give away the plot, but what I think they're kind of going for is, and it's kind of interesting. This came out within months of Nier Automata, but because there are some interesting thematic and perhaps even plot parallels, but. You remember in Nier Automata, it was the NPC in town that didn't want to replace all their parts because then they would be a different person.
You don't want to ship Theseus yourself.
Ship Theseus yourself. Yep.
Yeah.
So I think they're going for some of that in this.
Okay.
Right. If I replace all of my rock body, I will not be the same person.
I will put that out there because the main character. The big theme they're going for is Foss, the main character, wants to change themselves, but what does that mean? And you can kind of project some things onto that. I think my only problem, 2 problems are I think it's taking a very long time to get to that part of it. Like we're still introducing new characters in like episode 7 or 8 or something. And, each one's kind of giving their own kind of different perspective on certain things. But I feel like they're running out of time to bring home the point of and I can see the point. They are building up to it, but they're taking a long time to build up to it. My other challenge is I find the main character pretty annoying.
Well, that's always that's a deal.
And this is something that has happened many times over the course of
to be fair, they are supposed to be annoying to a certain degree. This is
look, to be clear, I'm sure there's a Land of Lustrous fan screaming, "No, you just got to get to this episode, and it all comes around. It makes sense, right?"
I see this. I see the character arc they're going for. I understand why they are doing what they're doing. Don't come at me in the comments on it. I know, and I'm enjoying it. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Basically, every scene with the main character involves one of two things happening, which is, one, they are complaining about how they feel useless and have nothing to do, and they're begging for somebody to give them a job. And then when they get the job, they complain that it's too hard and they don't want to do it anymore, and they give up.
Is this show just a biography of me?
Well, maybe this. I mean, a lot of people may find this relatable. I don't know, but that's one type of scene.
Basically, all I do as well.
That's basically one type of scene, and then the other type of scene is no, Foss, don't go do that dangerous thing. You might die. And then Foss says, well, I guess I'm going to go do that dangerous thing now. And then they get into trouble and end up smashing to pieces or something. And then everyone has to risk their life to save them again. And so what it really means is Foss spends most of their time either like laying on the ground moping or smashed to pieces for a lot of the series. And it's usually their own fault. And I get what narratively they're trying to do with that. When you watch the show, it'll make sense.
So like how
when that
down
is
to like, okay, knowing this kind of story, or not knowing this story specifically, but knowing this kind of story and this kind of setup, and also just like brushing up against the way people in this fandom talk.
Yeah.
Count down to the episode in which Foss does her antics again, and they have to rescue her again, but this time, like, somebody else gets killed saving her, and like now the shit is real, right?
Yeah, there is. It's interesting because they are like immortal. So
like the current version of this character. Wait, they're immortal, but they can be
put back together basically.
But they become a different person, like they reincarnate.
No, it's not. It depends. Okay. We don't have time to get into that.
Fine.
I'll say you are correct. They are tapping into that. But because of how the world works, it's not quite the big gotcha moment that it could be.
Fine. I was like, they're gonna set up where the reality comes crashing down on Foss.
Yeah, they've kind of dipped into that a little bit already. I think. So yeah, that's my gripes with it, but I think the themes that they're going for are very interesting. The presentation is fantastic. Again, I don't remember the show looking this good. Maybe I was just not as predisposed to liking CG animation back then, but the presentation is fantastic. It's visually very interesting and creative, and it is a ambitious show that I think. We'll see if the jury's still out whether they will deliver on the ambition, but it's still possible, which is always good. And I'm enjoying it. So just throwing that out there.
Cool.
And I didn't get to watching any more of the other recommendations, but I might at some point. We'll see. But this one for sure. I might even have it done by the next time we talk. So, all right, that will do it for this episode. We can do our housekeeping. You can check us out at theglorioblog.com. Go read our Zig and Ira's first look on the new Sentai show, number 1 Sentai. I still don't know how to say it.
Gozyuger.
And you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Podbean, Stitcher, and of course YouTube, where you can like, comment, subscribe. ring that notification bell, all those good things. Tell us which version of Secret Base you like the best. Which I have a feeling anybody that listens to this podcast is going to disagree with me, but I'll just put it out there. And tell your friends, tell your enemies, and we'll catch you next time.